how's it going everyone? It is Skullzi here with the latest gaming news, rumors, and speculation. Today will be the first of many Starfield showcase breakdown videos because, like I said in my last video, breaking down everything that Bethesda gave us in the most recent Starfield showcase would take like a 4 to 6 hour video, maybe even longer, to properly cover everything, and I'd rather do several smaller videos focusing on different specific aspects and topics of that showcase rather than make one gigantic one. But don't worry, if you're into long videos, by the end of this entire process, if Starfield isn't out already, I'll go back and do a supercut of all these breakdown videos. But nonetheless, let's not waste any more time, because today will be the first of my deep dive videos into that Starfield showcase. And today we're going to be focusing on character traits. For those that don't know, when you're creating your character, you can choose character background traits that kind of indicate some more personality, that it gives your character just some more stats, some more immersion, some more character building. Some of these traits are good, some of these traits are bad, some of these traits are both, actually most of them are both, and some of these traits you no doubt will know about already if you've been entrenched in the Starfield breakdown video scene for a while now. But we do have some new information here, as well as a couple other things that I want to touch on in this video, and this is going to be, like I said, the first of very many videos I'll be breaking down. So if the traits aren't the most exciting thing for you, don't worry, there's a lot more on the horizon. I just want to start with the traits because one of the first things I do when I'm anticipating a game as much as I am anticipating Starfield, and when that game happens to be an RPG, is I like to build my character early on in my mind. I like to give my character a background, a backstory, kind of plan out how my character is, like what traits I'll give them, what abilities I think they'll have at the start of the game, and stuff like that. It just helps with the immersion and the role-playing, because it's an RPG, so I mean, that's how it works. So I want to cover those aspects first, and the first of those, some of the most important aspects in terms of role building and character building, are character traits. So let's begin. The first trait I want to talk about is Raised Universal, and for those that don't know, there are a small handful of religions which seem to be somewhat powerful organizations within the world of Starfield that we can choose to ally with or just be followers of, and Raised Universal is one of those religious background traits. It reads as follows: you grew up as a member of the Sanctum Universum. You gain access to a special chest full of items in the Sanctum Universum in New Atlantis, but lose access to the House of the Enlightened chest. Can't be combined with any other religion trait. So as you can see here, if you choose one religion trait, you're basically locked out of the other one. So you can't be a multi-religious person. You have to basically be a fanatic to this said religion if you choose it. Now, Bethesda did say that you can change or drop or just remove the negative elements of many of these traits via gameplay, so I wonder if we can change our religion via gameplay as well. If you choose to join a different religion than the one you chose during character creation, maybe you can, but then you'll probably be known as like a heretic or a traitor by the previous religion you started with, and they may attack you on sight. So there's always a give and take here, and I expect there to be one with religions as well. But nonetheless, it seems like the main bonus you get, other than probably a boost to reputation and an overall positive response to the religion you choose, you'll also get access to some sort of religion starter chest or something located in that religious headquarter location. So for the Sanctum Universum, it seems like their headquarters is in New Atlantis, in something called the Sanctum Universum, so I guess their religion is the same name as their building, but it's located in New Atlantis, which is probably the biggest city in the game, the biggest city Bethesda has ever made, and we've seen plenty of New Atlantis. So if you plan to spend a lot of time in New Atlantis early on in your playthrough, choosing Sanctum Universum would probably be a good choice. Next up, well, still on the topic of religion, the next one is called Raised Enlightened. You grew up as a member of the Enlightened. You gain access to a special chest full of items in the House of the Enlightened in New Atlantis, but lose access to other chests, i.e. the Sanctum Universum chest, and once again can't be combined with any other religious trait. So here we are once again with another religious trait. This one is actually tied to the House of Enlightened instead of Sanctum Universum, but one interesting note here is both of these these religions are located in New Atlantis. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interesting dialogue and gameplay related to two rival religions in the same city, but nonetheless, we don't know too much about these two religious groups quite yet. I'm still going to be doing some deep diving into everything we know about the religions in a future video. For now, I want to focus on the traits, but here we are with the House of the Enlightened, so pretty interesting stuff. Curious what types of items we get in these chests and how the items differ from religion to religion. The next one is a very interesting one. If I don't choose this one for my first playthrough, I definitely will for my second one. But here we are with Neon Street Rat, a non-religious trait. You grew up on the mean streets of Neon. You gain access to special dialogue options and better rewards from some missions on Neon. Crime bounty by other factions is greatly increased, can't be combined with any other faction allegiance trait. So we began with some religion traits, and now we moved over to faction allegiance traits. This is something we're going to see in future traits as well, because like choosing a religion, we can choose a faction to start the game with. Basically, we have some sort of reputation and we're allied with that faction if we choose it. This particular faction are the criminal elements of Neon. Neon is a city in Starfield, which is basically the party city. A lot of shady stuff goes on. It's basically the night city of Starfield for those that are familiar with Cyberpunk. So if you choose this, you basically grew up on the mean streets of Neon. You were a street kid, probably did some criminal stuff. You probably have a reputation with criminal elements, which means if you choose this, you'll get a head start on being a criminal, doing smuggling and stuff like that, because you already know people. You probably already have some quests you can choose right away based on having prior knowledge of these people and prior workings with them. But the drawback is if you do any crime stuff, your crime bounty will be increased and magnified by an uncertain amount. So you'll get a boost in crime, but your bounty will also go up faster than it would have otherwise. Pretty interesting give and take here. I wonder if there's any way to remove that bounty buff or debuff, whatever, bounty negative thing. Next up is kid stuff. This is one I'm definitely going to choose. This is one of the traits that aren't really a faction or religion trait. It's not really a trait that locks you out of anything. There's a handful of these as well. But keep in mind here, Bethesda did say we can remove these traits, so this one's kind of a weird one to think about in that kind of dynamic. But nonetheless, kid stuff. One I'm definitely going to choose because I'm curious about it. It reads, your parents are alive and well, and you can visit them at their home, but you will automatically send 2% of your credits home to them every week. So 2% of all your income will go to your parents. 2% isn't a lot. It will add up over time, but I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of ways to make money in Starfield, so it's probably not bad of a negative. Mostly I'm curious about what the bonus would be, because yeah, it's kind of cute. It's immersive to have your parents in game and go visit them and stuff, but there has to be more bonuses than that, right? Can I build up my parents' house? Can I build them a space pool for their retirement? Like, how deep does this trait go? I'm super curious, and I'll definitely be choosing it, but this is definitely a fun one. I like this one. Next up, we have Introvert. You really need your time alone. Exerting yourself uses less oxygen when adventuring alone, but more when adventuring with other human companions. Can't be combined with Extrovert. So this is basically the lone wanderer perk from Fallout transported over into Starfield. Basically, you get bonuses if you travel with yourself and not with companions. You use less oxygen when you're adventuring, which is good, probably because you're less anxious, so you're breathing more normally. This is kind of funny to think about. Think about someone who's extremely introverted being forced to adventure with the adoring fan of all people. Obviously, the introvert is going to have heavier breathing from all the stress and anxiety. So this one makes sense. A pretty interesting one. So as you can see, there's also traits here that lock you out of other personality-based traits. So like religion, like faction, there's personality traits as well, which can lock you out of the other choice. This one's an interesting one, though, because I consider myself both an introvert and an extrovert, so I guess you can't be like me in Starfield, but, you know, it makes sense in terms of gameplay, so I'm not going to complain about it too loudly. Next up, Hero Worship. This is the one that set the internet on fire and made me literally jump up off my couch when I was watching the Starfield showcase. It says you've earned the attention of an annoying, adoring fan who will show up randomly and jabber at you incessantly. In English +5. On the plus side, he'll join your ship's crew and give you gifts, so For those of you familiar with Oblivion, this is going to hit all the nostalgic nerves perfectly because not only is the adoring fan back with a very similar dialogue, but it's the same voice actor. Basically, in Oblivion, the adoring fan was somebody you could get through the arena side quests, and he's just basically a fan of your work in the Imperial Arena. He's a fan of you. He thinks you're the best gladiator and adventurer ever, and he can follow you around and annoy the shit out of you. It seems like he can do that in Starfield now. So yay, I guess. And he'll also give you gifts. I love this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to choose it, though. It seems like quite the commitment. It's like having a literal child in game, but I'm curious what gifts he'll give you. I mean, maybe the gifts will make up for it. And like Bethesda said, there's ways to lose these traits, and when they said that, they then showed themselves kind of shooting him in the back of the head somewhere. So I guess you can mysteriously abandon him if you get tired of him. But nonetheless, this is a fun one. I love that Bethesda's including this. Bethesda is awesome for this. Let's check out the next one. Serpent's Embrace. So this is another religious trait, and in my opinion, this is the most interesting religious trait out of the bunch. You grew up worshipping the Great Serpent. Grav jumping provides a temporary boost to health and endurance, but health and endurance are lowered if you don't continue jumping regularly, like an addiction, and once again can't be combined with any other religion trait. So for those that don't know, grav jumping is Starfield's version of like a warp drive, going far distances in space to travel from star system to star system. I don't know what the Great Serpent is. Apparently it's some type of great snake that travels the cosmos. That's how I envision it. It would be cool if there's an Easter egg where that serpent really exists as a creature for us to discover. That would be kind of scary, but awesome. But nonetheless, if you choose this, you get anytime you grav jump in Starfield, you get a temporary boost to health and endurance. So this is an interesting one because if you are going to do a lot of exploring in uncharted places or places you know are far away, this is a good one because just think of it in terms of gameplay. You're ready to explore. You want to go to a new star system. You open up your star map. You choose one you haven't been to, and you grav jump to it. I expect this to work kind of like sleeping, right? How you get an hour buff for sleeping in Skyrim, Fallout, whatever. So when you grav jump in Starfield, you're going to get an hour boost to health and endurance, which means for your next hour, maybe more, maybe less of gameplay, when you're exploring new places, you're going to have a bonus to health and endurance, which is good because you're not going to know what you're going to run into, what to expect. So you're going to get this boost to your adventuring. It's kind of a good idea, but if you don't continue the grav jump, you will then get a debuff. Your health and endurance will be lowered. So this is definitely a perk for people who plan to explore a lot and keep moving. So this might be a good trait to choose if you're a pirate and you want to keep moving so you don't get tracked down. Just the gameplay loop and potential is interesting here when you think of how these traits can work in terms of how you're going to actually play this game and how you're going to choose to experience and live in this world. Starfield is insane with all the possibilities. The next one is Alien DNA. This is another big one that people think confirms aliens are in the game. People think it doesn't mean anything. I lean more towards somewhere in the middle, but nonetheless it says you volunteered for a controversial experiment that combines alien and human DNA. As a result, you start with a higher health pool and greater endurance, but healing items aren't as effective. So this is kind of like a berserker trait-ish, not really, but kind of is. Now, this doesn't have to mean intelligent aliens like little gray dudes and UFOs. We know aliens are in the game because there's tons of alien creatures and alien plants. This very well could just mean they did some type of experiment with alien plant or alien creature DNA to see how it would work. Maybe they had a theory it would improve the immune system. Who knows, whatever. But apparently it worked, and it also didn't at the same time. So you were one of these people that got that chose to volunteer for one of these experiments. Maybe you thought you'd become a superhero, but it does give you a higher health pool and a lot more endurance, but every time you heal it won't be as effective, so there's definitely a drawback there. But I mean, it kind of balances out because you have more health anyway, so healing doesn't necessarily need to be as effective, so this might be a good one for people who are interested in such things. Next up we have Dream Home. Now, this is interesting because before we saw a trait called Starter Home, where we start with a smaller, modest house on a quiet moon somewhere, but we have to pay a mortgage. This seems like this is on the opposite side of the fence of Starter Home, and I'm kind of surprised this is even a choice, but it says Dream Home. You own a luxurious, customizable house on a peaceful planet. Unfortunately, it comes with a 50,000 credit mortgage with Gelbank that has to be paid weekly. Now, this is what I think happened here. I actually think this is the starter home perk, because when we look at the old starter home perk from last year, it says you own a small house on a peaceful little moon, but it comes with a 50,000 credit mortgage. So why would the starter home on a peaceful moon, which doesn't appear to be customizable based on this text, why would it cost the same amount of money as the dream home, which is both luxurious and customizable? I think they just replaced starter home with dream home. So if you do choose this, you'll get a house that's luxurious and customizable, but you owe 50,000 credits that you have to pay weekly. Now, I was going to choose Starter Home, but if Starter Home is gone, I think I might choose Dream Home instead. But if Dream Home wasn't customizable, I would then choose Starter Home, because I do want to start with a house. It just makes sense in terms of immersion, and I like having a house. But also, I don't want to start with, like, top of the tier luxury, right? I want to work my way up. But if the starter home isn't customizable, then I will go for luxury, even though I'd rather not at the start of the game to get something that's customizable. But I think starter home is gone, and I think it's replaced with dream home. But this is an interesting one because, you know, people love having houses in Bethesda games, at least a lot of people do, and this confirms you can customize it, so maybe we can furnish it. That's pretty awesome. But we have to pay this mortgage weekly, so if you combine this with kid stuff, you're going to be paying a weekly mortgage along with 2% of your income to your parents. So you're going to be paying a lot of money if you choose both of those, Dream Home and Kid Stuff. But nonetheless, I think I still am. I think I'm literally going to choose Dream Home and Kid Stuff. But this is an awesome one. Obviously, we knew we can have ships and outposts and bases, but now this confirms we can also have houses. Here we have Empath. You are deeply connected to the feelings of others. Performing actions your companion likes will result in a temporary increase in combat effectiveness, but performing actions they don't like will have the precise opposite effect. This is a cool one. This is an interesting one. So basically, this one allows you to kind of understand the feelings and motivations of others more easily, which I wonder if choosing this trait will also give you bonuses in dialogue. But nonetheless, if you make your companion happy, you'll get a temporary increase in combat effectiveness. But if you piss your companion off, you'll get a decrease in combat effectiveness temporarily. So this is a cool one. I can see this one kind of turning your character into an everyman, like a bland person that just tries to get everyone to like them, whose personality is molded like clay to fit the perspectives of those they travel with. But nonetheless, this could be a buff for you early on if your character is weak. But if you're going to spend most of your time with somebody you like, that you agree with, then this is the one that you can choose anyway without having to worry really about any negatives. The next one is extrovert. This is the opposite of introvert, which we talked about earlier. It should be kind of obvious. You're a people person. Exerting yourself uses less oxygen when adventuring with human companions, but more when adventuring alone. So like the previous one, this is the opposite. You pretty much have to adventure with somebody all the time, otherwise you're going to get a decrease. Otherwise you're going to use up more oxygen. You probably feel more comfortable when you're with people. When you're not with people, you get anxious and you breathe heavier and you use more oxygen. But it's curious how it says human companions here and not robots. So maybe, you know, that kind of sucks. That means that in terms of the traits, you don't consider Vasco sentient or someone you could be friends with. I feel like I'm already friends with Vasco, so I disagree, but nonetheless, interesting trait, and obviously this cannot be combined with introvert. Here we have Freestar Collective Settler. This is another one of those faction background choices like Neon Street Kid. This one says you gain access to special Freestar Collective dialogue options and better rewards from some missions given by the faction, but crime bounty towards other factions is greatly increased. So this is curious for several reasons. Obviously, if you choose this one, you have worked with the Freestar Collective before. They like you in the prologue or before, all that, whatever. You'll have better dialogue options, better rewards, and probably better missions. But this also confirms you have a specific crime bounty with individual factions. So you can go over to United Colony Space, be a space pirate, do some smuggling, rob some people, and then go to Freestar, and United Colony probably won't track you down there. They probably won't follow you. But the second you go back to United Colony Space and they see you, they're going to be trying to arrest you and claim that bounty. So this proves that there is faction-based bounty systems, which is something we've seen in previous Bethesda games in terms of like the various holds of Skyrim and stuff like that. Anyway. Only a couple more to go here. Here we have spaced. Your body has become acclimated to space. Health and endurance are increased when in space, but decreased when on the surface. So this is a curious one. This is similar to the other ones where there's a give and a take. You know, you're good at one thing, but bad at the opposite. This basically gives you an increase to health and endurance when you're in space, but anytime you're on the surface of a planet, you're going to get a decrease to that. And I would have imagined that you would spend most of your time on the surfaces of planets. So this would be a huge negative to take, but the only way this would make sense if there is a substantial amount of in-space gameplay. And I would imagine as well, if you're flying around your spaceship in a cockpit seat, shooting, dogfighting with another ship, that your personal health and endurance won't matter as much. That mostly it'll be related to your ship and its stats. So this tells me, in a way, that there is a lot of just space like gameplay in terms of floating around in space, floating around checking out asteroids maybe, floating around destroyed space stations, I don't know, but the only way for this trait to actually be worthwhile and to make sense if there's a lot of gameplay that isn't on the surface of a planet and isn't in or on your ship, which is curious. I'm curious how that's going to work. Still very interesting though. And now we have a few traits that we have no explanations for, but we can mostly kind of infirm what they are. I believe terra firma is the opposite of the spaced trait, spacer, that we just broke down, to where if you choose terra firma, you get a bonus to health and endurance when you're on the surface of a planet, but you have a decrease in health and endurance when you're not on the surface of a planet. So this is just the opposite of that one, and that one would make sense. We have United Colonies native, which is likely just like the Freestar Collective native, or whatever, the one from earlier. UC native is your United Colonies faction choice, so if you choose this one, you already have a background and a good reputation with the United Colonies. You will get more awards when completing quests for them and new dialogue options, but your reputation with other factions, or rather your bounty with other factions, will be higher. So that's a curious one. And then we have Taskmaster, which is also a curious one as well. No explanation on what this one is. My guess is it has something to do with bonuses to hiring and managing crew for your ship and your outposts. That's literally the only thing I can think of, unless it also has something to do with giving you bonuses to your companions as well. But like everything else, I'm sure there's a negative to this one, because Taskmaster doesn't sound like the most friendly thing. So maybe your crew and your outpost workers are more efficient, but maybe they just simply like you less. And finally, this is one a lot of people might have missed, because they mentioned this separately in the showcase from when they were breaking down traits. There's also a trait called Wanted, where you will receive a massive damage buff when your health is low. So if you're at low health, you can go berserker mode and just destroy a bunch of dudes. But the con is mercenaries will randomly show up and attack you. So imagine this like Skyrim. You're a berserker, right? So you do more damage at low health, but you've also robbed a bunch of people. So you have that little note on bandits to where they're paid to attack you. I'm sure anyone who's played Skyrim is familiar with that, or a lot of Bethesda games have this mechanic. But basically, if you choose the Wanted trait, people are going to randomly show up and attack you because you pissed someone off at some point in time and did something bad. But when you're low on health, you'll do a lot more damage. This one's kind of more of a wild card one. I don't think I'd be using this one that much unless I'm just curious about the Wanted backstory, but nonetheless, these are all the traits thus far out of all the Starfield traits, all the Starfield gameplay, showcases, everything that there are in this point in time. Now, I'm sure there's probably more traits than this. There might be a few more. I'm not sure how many traits Bethesda is going to allow us to choose from, but you can see there's a wide range of traits here. Everything from personality stuff to faction backstory stuff to religion choice stuff. So this, combined with all the other character customization and creation options, allow us to create probably one of the more in-depth characters we've created in the Bethesda Game Studios game yet, with a lot of backstory and a lot of potential for roleplay. So that's pretty awesome. But that's going to finish up today's video. In future videos, I'll be breaking down more particular and specific topics from the Starfield showcase, just like I did in today's video. But as always, what I want to know is, what traits are you going to choose for your first playthrough? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, be sure to like the video and subscribe, and huge shout out to the following amazing people for going above and beyond to support the channel and the community. If you want to get a permanent future video shout out and get added to this list at the end of every single one of my future videos, you can support the channel over on Ko-fi, Patreon, or here on YouTube as an exclusive channel member. Links for all this and more, including the Skullzi Discord, are down in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching.
It just works.